Good?
We're good.
Okay. I guess I'll do this way. Okay, call this meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. We're going to start just a little bit different, a little bit sad. I want to just take a moment to ask for a moment of silence. As some of you may have heard, Steve Hardery passed away recently. I didn't personally know him other than one occasion. He worked for North Reading for 29 years in payroll. I met him when he came to retire, and he came to the school committee meeting, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of sad, really. I mean, like, he was here for so long, and he came here, and we talked all about what his plans were for retirement, and unfortunately, he passed away over the holidays. So I just wanted to take a minute to honor Mr. Hardery. I don't know, Dr. Daly, if you had anything you wanted to add?
Sure, Michael, and I might just want to say something brief. Steve was fantastic to work with, so dedicated. He did retire around this time last year, a little bit later, but he came in as recently as late October because we caught something that wasn't quite right. And Steve's not the type of person just to call you or email you. He came in, made sure it was right, fixed it all up. He wasn't feeling well at that time, but it wasn't anything that we were shocked when we got that news. And we appreciate the moment of silence for Steve. He really deserved it. He grew up in North Reading, played ball here, played some semi-professional baseball, and was just a great employee.
Yeah, I echo those thoughts by Dr. Daly. He was just an extremely committed, dedicated employee to the North Reading school system for nearly 30 years. And he was one of those just rare, one-time employees that you're just so lucky and fortunate to have, because he cared so deeply about the job and the people that he worked for. And he took the time, the extra time to really go above and beyond to either work with employees on their retirement or do whatever he had to do, and he really cared deeply about the work. And it's certainly very, very sad and unfortunate, and I just really wish his family well during this time. But I appreciate that.
Okay. So we just take a quick moment in honor of Mr. Hardery. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're going to start with the public input. Is there anybody here that's not on the agenda that wants to speak? Mr. Simons.
I have a question.
Yes, of course. Actually, you should say your name and your
Jeff
address.
Simons, Hickory Lane, North Reading. Here.
Yes.
I'm a little late for this question. I haven't been here since town meeting.
Okay.
But at town meeting, we kind of wrapped up the lawsuit having to do with the money spent on the high school building here.
Yes.
I'm curious, roughly speaking, about what did we net from that settlement, if you can say so? And we spent a lot of money in lawyers' fees. We got some money back. And then what's happening with that money? Where is it going to go? Is it going to go towards capital projects? Is it going towards something here in the building? I'm just curious how it all wraps up.
A great question. I'll let Michael jump in a second, too, but I believe after legal fees, it's about $1 million extra in excess of legal fees. And there's two questions, I think, that are pertaining, because we received more than that. So there's already legal fees that have been spent. So the number, while everyone talks about it being a net of $1 million, there's actually more than that that has been paid. And I believe it's in free cash right now. And I think at June town meeting, there'll be a motion to potentially move it. And Michael, can you update more than that?
That sounds about right. So I don't think a lot of the questions on how that's going to be used or allocated for or spent is all determined yet. I think certainly the select board will be talking about those items as well. But the net is about $1 million, as Mr. Buckley has alluded to. I think those decisions will happen kind of publicly at town meeting. Certainly large capital projects and certainly kind of one-time investments back to the community is certainly what's I'm aware has been discussed, but I think those will be kind of forthcoming at some upcoming town meetings later in the spring.
And I also will clarify, it was not the school committee that brought the lawsuit. The select board brought it. The select board was the one that handled all of it. And so it really had, even though it had to do with the school, it had nothing to do with the school committee. So it's not sitting in our coffers, it's in the town free cash right now. The town will discuss that. I only know a little bit about it as part of the finance planning team. We've discussed a little bit about what could be done. We've talked about whether to pay down the overall project or you've seen driving around town, there's roads that are closed right now that have immediate funding sources, that we're trying to identify. So there's been other discussions about what it could be used for, but all that will have to happen at town meeting. So I don't think there's a specific plan yet.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Moving on, we have Piper Kerwin here for student report. So Piper.
Hi, everyone. For notable academic matters, midterms are next week for high school students. The end of the second quarter is Friday, January 19th, and the CELA biliteracy tests are happening this week into next week. For notable fine arts matters, auditions for the high school one act Much Ado About Nothing happen today after school. Notorious is competing on January 27th at Plymouth North High School for their annual Any Voices competition. For notable athletic matters, the swim team started their season last weekend. Spring sports have started their signups, and we have a lot of games tomorrow. So there is a girls' indoor track meet against Essex Tech. There's a girls' basketball game at Georgetown, and then there's a boys' basketball game that is home. And then for other notable matters, there's an open house for middle school students and for parents on January 10th. Tuesday is a full day, but Wednesday through Fridays are half days next week because of midterms. And then that Monday, which is MLK Day, we have off. The military recruitments have been visiting during Power Block for high school students who are interested. And Student Council is hosting a Super Smash Bros. Tournament, which is January 19th from 12:30 to 2:30 in the DLL. And then sports teams are meeting with an NRPS nutritionist who's coming in to talk to sports players about eating healthy while they're working. For my student work report, I want to show something called, that's from my CivGov class, and it's our Linkage Institution project, which is basically where we had to take like a matter that's like a current event and talk about how it relates to politics and like the government and everything like that. So my group, it was a big group project, so we did immigration. We did talk all about interest groups, which is basically like how different political parties viewed the topic, and we like took just a lot of like current events and everything that linked that into that, and then a lot of elections and everything like that, which is basically just a huge slideshow. And I thought it was really cool and really interesting to learn about. So.
Excellent. Question, thoughts? And I have 3 comments for you. Number 1, congratulations on SpongeBob. I don't think we saw that since then. That was an amazing performance. My little 2 were singing it for about 3 weeks afterwards. The entire car ride to New York for Christmas with SpongeBob, so thank you for that. 2, I know the Polar Plunge. I saw that,
Yeah.
and I just thought that was great. It was great to be able to have it streamed. I watched most of it. I didn't see Dr. Daly jump for some reason. I must have missed that one. Next time, I think, right?
Other people in this room did.
And then, just for you personally, I saw in the transcript that you won the award for, where you're recognized for your for volunteering.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so congratulations to you on that. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much, Piper.
Thank you.
I think you're staying, because I think I saw you on the list again later. Okay, Mr. LaPrette, I believe we're going to move on to the the high school presentation. North Reading High School.
So it's always a joy to have an opportunity to speak about what we do and to share it directly with you. And this is another example of that. I think when we kind of close our eyes and say, a student's education, right? Or, kind of like, what are we teaching? What are we learning? And how just huge that is, right? It's kind of a universe of possibilities. My hope is that tonight, with our focus on wellness and fitness and inquiry and creativity. And we have some students here to talk about those things, but I really want to take a minute before I introduce the students and their presentations with the kind of faculty assistants. I do want to thank the faculty for allowing those things to happen. When we think about what's really making a difference, my hope is that for the next 25 minutes, half an hour, you see this sense of like, wow, these are difference-making experiences. And I'm very happy and proud to kick us off with our first slide, which I think, Dr. Daly, you in charge here? Or am I? Okay. So I am, help me out here.
Oh, don't call it the assistant superintendent, call it, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna try to just tether myself.
Right here, right?
Yep. Ms. Lindsay Gervino, speaking on a topic around student wellness with Shania Verma and
Sophia.
Sophia Saldana. Sorry about that. Come on up.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having us. So this school year, we started universal screening at the high school, and we decided as a team to implement screeners in the 9th grade and the 10th grade. This slide here is talking about national data, which is what we did look at prior to the year before. So this was all from the CDC website, but ADHD, anxiety, depression, and what they call behavior are the most commonly diagnosed mental health disorders for children ages 3 to 17. The graph at the bottom is linked up to that, so you can see the breakdown for each of those three by age group. So the bar chart that is the highest in all of those columns are for our age group. So co-occurring diagnoses, approximately 3 in 4 children with depression also have anxiety. And when Lynn Lyons was here, I don't know if folks saw her presentation, but she talked about untreated anxiety disorders in children is one of the leading predictors of depression in young adulthood. So they're definitely closely linked. Then here towards the bottom, adolescents ages 12 to 17. This is information around suicide, so that's related to depression. So 18% seriously considered attempting suicide, 16% made a suicide plan, and 8.9% attempted. And this was back in 2018 to 2019. So this was our plan for the high school. For 9th grade, we're screening for symptoms of depression, so we're using the PHQ-9, which is evidence-based. It is what pediatricians and clinicians use in private practice. And in 10th grade, we use the GAD-7, which is for generalized anxiety or symptoms of anxiety. In the 9th grade, I co-facilitated with the NAM project, so this was our 3rd year bringing the NAM project in. And it was myself and then a seasoned clinician within the NAM project. For 10th grade, I co-facilitated a presentation that I created on anxiety, and I co-facilitated with Jackie Rogers, who is here in the front. She's the other adjustment counselor at the high school. Everyone completes an exit ticket, a paper exit ticket with 2 questions on it. Then I was reviewing the screening results in class in real time, just scanning for any immediate follow-ups. And then the whole counseling team conducted safety interviews as needed or as required. And then at the end of the process, I contacted all parents for students who self-reported moderate to severe symptoms. I shared information for them to pass along to the pediatrician, and then I provided resources for outpatient therapy, or if it were a higher level of care, I would help coordinate that as well. So we notified parents via email. The health teachers actually sent the emails out. We linked to the screeners themselves so parents could see, or caretakers could see, what the questions were. We provided the option to opt out via Google form, and then my information was shared for additional questions. As part of universal screening with mental health, we're not diagnosing students at school, and they're not the results and the questionnaire, it's not part of the official student record. It's really just us attempting to identify students who may need additional support. Any questions on that stuff before I move on?
My only question would be, so 9th grade, you identify you're looking for depression, and 10th grade anxiety. Why the choice there? I mean, especially because I think on the previous slide you had said oftentimes anxiety leads to depression later on. So
Yeah.
why would it be that way versus the other?
Coexist, and depending on what you're reading, it's one causing the other.
Yep.
We decided that if you're going to rank it, depression is sort of one I'd like to do earlier than later because you identify students who may be having suicidal thoughts and no one's aware. So it's better to intervene earlier than later. Ideally, down the road, I mean, I think we could talk about doing both screeners. So this is our first step in it, but I think doing both depression and anxiety, and we can stagger per grade. It's really TBD on how we take it from here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this was the fall data. We're going to repeat again in the spring. So we're using health class, and we have half the year in health, and then the students flip and they go into physical education. So I'll repeat this exercise again in the spring. So the fall data, the total students, these were students in attendance, so I didn't use roster data. This is people who are actually in the classrooms. There was 196 total, so we went into 5 classrooms for 9th grade and 5 classes for 10th grade. The total number of students that I screened were 192, and that's for both grades. So then on the right, next to that, you can see for depression, 19 students came up with moderate to severe symptoms, self-reported symptoms. And out of the 9th grade classes, that was approximately 24%. And for anxiety, it was 29 students, and that's approximately 26% of the classes that participated. So within the PHQ, this is the one for depression. The last question is a question that speaks to imminent risk. So if anyone answered anything related to that's not a denial, then we would do an immediate safety interview. So 6 students came up in that. And then for parent follow-ups, I followed up with 48 families. So I tried to find national data and state data that I could compare this to because it is a little bit higher than the data that's online, but the data online is mostly from, you know, pre-pandemic, which had big impacts on mental health. So I went to Methuen and I asked them, they've been doing universal screening across their district since 2015. And they shared with me here on the left side, for high school, that's their data from November, so same time frame as us. So for anxiety, it's about 20%, and depression, 21%. They're following the same protocol. They're using the same screeners that we used as well. So I did ask Methuen if they had data since they started in 2015, before and after. So in 2021, they compared their data to pre-pandemic, and it was a 312% increase. Any questions on that stuff?
The only thing I'll ask is, what's the next step if there is something identified? Can you talk very quickly about, like, because I know some of it might be outside of schools, like parents might, you know, try to treat things outside of school, but within the school, what would be supports that students would have available?
Yeah, it's a good question. So if it would depend on, so the immediate ones that were screened that day would do safety interviews. Most of them were Elliott referrals, and there were a few that were partial hospitalizations from that. And we help coordinate, and then when they come back through the program, into school, they come through our bridge program, and Jackie Rogers is the clinical person for that, so we work really closely with those teams, the clinical teams outside of school. For students who were moderate, not severe, I recommended just sharing information with the pediatrician so that they can monitor it every time you go in. And everyone was sort of unique. I also shared outpatient therapy resources. Some students, so it was a full gamut of, yes, we're aware, this doesn't surprise us at all from a parent's perspective, to, yes, we're aware, but we're all set, we don't want any additional resources, to we had no idea, we'll take all the information. So I worked with everyone individually. Eventually, we want to get to a point where we can offer more Tier 1, Tier 2 interventions at school with groups. The way that we've been handling it, the team, is just depending on the need and the desire. If a student wants to meet and learn a little bit psychoeducation around either of those topics, we'll set up short term, so it could be like 2 to 6 sessions.
I guess my only other question, bring it to the school committee here, because a lot of what we talk about is budgets. What's the caseload right now for student adjustment counselors at high school overall? Can Can you just kind of comment on that since we're here?
Yeah. So we've changed what we do, how we divide up our work. And Jackie was new last year, so this is her second year with us. So now I'm Gen Ed, and I have a lot of 504s with an emotional disability. And Jackie has a caseload of IEP students, and you have 6, is that right? 6 IEP students who would have counseling either weekly or biweekly. And then she's also the clinical coordinator for Bridge. So your caseload's hard to say. If we say it's the 6 students, and then how many come through Bridge in a year, average?
So this year it's 6, and last year was 8 IEP students. So those are students who are maybe requiring a higher level of care, almost along the lines of like a therapeutic program, but seeing you for weekly counseling. Bridge services about, in the past 2 years, as far as I'm aware, like 35 to 40 students over the course of the year who I meet with for weekly counseling.
And those are high needs, those
Yeah.
students. And then for me, last year, because it's Gen Ed and 504s, some students I'd meet with just one time, and other students I would meet with weekly almost most of the year. And I counted up at the end of the school year, and there were about 200 students that I had, unique students that I had met with. And I am on track to, now with screening, it will probably be above.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So then I just broke out their symptoms for depression and anxiety. So for depression, they have an additional category for moderate to severe. But basically, I attach a number for each of the answers that students provide, and then I tally it all up. And based on the total, it would go into one of these buckets or categories. So you can see for depression, none, minimal, mild, moderate, severe, and severe. And this was for when in 9th grade, it was in December. And I'll do it again in May, so I'll just add that info in and we can track it. And then for anxiety, you see none, minimal, mild, moderate, and severe. So that's how it was really distributed. Yeah?
Dr. Daly?
Does it track the individual, like if a student were to go from moderate down to mild, like would you know that, or would it just be the aggregate number that's needed?
I could, I have that information, so I could, but I was just doing it at the aggregate level. Some parents too, when I reviewed it, wanted to go through each individual question, and and other people really didn't. But I'm not planning to store it for a while. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll go into the feedback. So both of these ladies they sat through, they're both 10th graders. They were in the presentations for anxiety, and they took the screener.
So this fall, 10th graders were given an anxiety presentation where our counselors educated us on anxiety, such as causes, symptoms, and how to reach out for help. We took 2 surveys, one that asked us if we felt that we needed to speak to guidance, and one that asked us questions in which we responded how often we encounter situations that may result in us having anxiety. This was very informative for our class. The presentation included statistics reminding us we're not alone in our feelings, as well as appropriate and safe ways to keep our anxiety under control. In addition, it mentioned people or resources we can reach out to for help whenever we're struggling. It was extremely beneficial that our class had all this information in one period, preparing us with any and all information we might need for the future. It's very much needed, especially during our high school years, with all the work, grades, and everything going on in our lives.
What we both felt we most liked about this presentation were the statistics that we were given. In today's world, you have so much information on your phone, on like the tips of your fingers, and more often than not, when you look up online what you're feeling, you're faced with really, really overwhelming information. This can kind of make you feel like you're alone with what you're feeling and that you're kind of going crazy, but the statistics in the presentation did the exact opposite, and it provided almost comforting information, letting us know that we're not alone in what we're feeling and that that our feelings can be talked about with others that will likely feel the same way.
What we both felt was helpful in the presentation was the resources that were given of things that can help. This included talking to a trusted adult, as well as understanding that in life we will often be worried and have overwhelming feelings, but there are many resources that can help ease us. It lets us know that we aren't the only ones that feel that way, and that guidance offers a safe, welcoming place for us to talk it out.
Some things that I think that we both think we can use to improve over the next couple of years is that bringing this presentation down to the earlier grades and maybe doing it across all high school grades. And as well, maybe we could cut the presentation in between 2 classes, kind of maximizing our attention, because one long presentation can kind of we are not that focused by the end of it. So by separating it, everybody can be fully focused throughout the entire presentation. That's all we have.
No, very good, thank you. Any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Dr. Daly?
Yeah, I'll just say I had the opportunity to visit when the van project was in with the 9th grade, and I was very impressed with the students and how they engaged in the questions that they asked. I thought that there was going to be, I don't know, nervousness, embarrassment, but I thought that the students really were excited to engage with the presenters, and it was really, really well done. It was a great merging of our health department and our adjustment counselors, so great work. Thank you for inviting us.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
just-
sorry.
Go ahead,
I
Jeff.
just want to say, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes, I mean, I know from certainly my wife's experiences doing the same things. There's a tremendous amount of work that goes into just running a program like this and following up on it. And it's just wildly valuable. So thank you to everybody who's involved, to even the kids that take it seriously. I mean, if everyone takes it seriously, top to bottom, it's incredibly valuable. So thanks for all the efforts.
Okay. Mr. Pratt?
Thank you. Okay, happy to introduce Mr. Osting, who is going to speak about something that's interesting going on in his AP course, and he's got his students here.
All right, so the teaching method I'm going to be talking about is called the Harkness method. I do want to just start by acknowledging there's a little bit of a false dichotomy on the screen. There's probably more options than this for the classroom than we're seeing, but I do think it's a very worthwhile method. I've been teaching in the summers at Phillips Academy for the last 13 years or so in the month of July, and it's been a great place. I think there's a lot of things I've been able to bring to that space from the public school setting, and some things that I've taken back to the public school setting from that space. And I think this is probably one of the most significant in terms of how it's impacted the way that I approach classroom experience. So just to explain what it is, it was first developed not in Andover, where I do my summer experience, but actually at Phillips Exeter in the 1930s. A very student-centered framework for discussion and learning. And really the teacher is much more an observer in this space as opposed to an active participant in the discussion. So the goal is for students to collaboratively create knowledge and understanding by engaging with multiple points of view on a set of texts that are selected and provided by the teacher. So the idea here is that by reading the text, they're going to understand it at a certain level and with certain perspectives. By engaging with other students who have also read the same thing and come to the discussion prepared, they're engaging and really getting to a much deeper level than they otherwise would have, really by engaging with each other's points of view. And it really helps facilitate a fundamental goal in the AP Government course, which is really dialogue across ideological divides. One of the things that I really value in that class is making sure that regardless of the perspectives that students have, they feel comfortable bringing them to the table and sharing them, even if we may have some kids that lean a little bit more conservative on the ideological spectrum and some that maybe lean a little bit more liberal. And then it's also absolutely a meaningful way for us to assess the speaking and listening standards that DESE drew into social studies standards from ELA in 2018. So there's a lot of opportunity there, as far as really monitoring the kids and helping them facilitate these discussion skills. How does it work in our setting? Students are really grouped, so within the space I've had as many as 24 in a classroom doing this. Currently I have 14 in the classroom. But they're really grouped in tables of 6 to 9 students. And so it's not the same oval table that you saw in the diagram, but they do bring their desks as close together as is humanly possible. It just facilitates the dialogue more evenly and prevents groups from interfering with other groups. Certain students speak a little bit louder than others, and that can create some interference within the room. Students come to class prepared, having read and annotated their assigned texts, and then they lead the discussion. I observe, I track participation just to make sure that students are receiving feedback and I'm evaluating them using a rubric that they've been given. And then I'm primarily there to answer any questions of fact as they emerge. So as they're discussing something, they might have a question about how something plays out. And so I'll step in and try and answer that very simple question of fact, and really leave them to express their opinions as far as how that system works or the way that it plays out. I do change the approach a little bit for more challenging texts in just providing question sets. Sometimes they have a hard time because we do a lot of Federalist papers in the AP Government course, and I found it a little bit easier to facilitate conversation, to have some prepared questions, give them a few minutes before the discussion starts to take a look at what they've read, kind of think about the questions, and then get ready for the discussion that's about to emerge. And really, no matter whatever the text is, our goals are always threefold, that we are making sure we understand what the author is saying through comprehension, and then we're kind of analyzing the argument to break it down into its pieces, and then evaluating to see what students agree with, disagree with, maybe where they think strengths and weaknesses lie. I'm certainly not going to read through all of this, but this is just the list of the discussions that we've had since September. Some of them are required texts that come with the course, the AP Government course. So for instance, Federalist 10 and Brutus 1, which one of our students will kind of discuss his experience of that conversation. Those are both required texts from the AP Government that the students really are able to know inside and out, kind of speak to the content and why they're thematically important for the goals of the course overall. And then there's maybe slightly more accessible articles, like the bureaucracy article you can see at the bottom, kind of looking at what the free market provides and what government steps in to fill the blanks on, where I can just tell the students, you know, you read the article, you've understood it, you guys should be able to really drive this conversation, and I'll stand back and really just be more in that observational role. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of how it works. So it's really, 14 discussions in the first semester. It's every week and a half or so that we're actually doing one of these. And it takes anywhere from about, half of the period for a smaller article to 3/4 to almost the entire period they can discuss for some of the more extensive articles. So
One quick question.
Sure.
How are students grouped?
Students
Do they choose themselves, or do you?
No, so I have pre-assigned groups, and I assign them out at the beginning of the year, and I really try and track to make sure that I'm allowing the perspectives to shift, to make sure that everybody's at least getting a chance to encounter through 2 or 3 conversations anyway, all the other perspectives that are available in the room. So that being said, I do want to give the floor to my 3 students and just kind of give them an opportunity to express what they've taken away from these experiences.
So the discussion that I chose to talk about is the Federalist 10 and Brutus 1 discussion. And Federalist 10 is an essay written by James Madison that argues for a Republican form of government to limit the dangers of factions by having a larger central government. And Brutus 1 rebutted these points by favoring a smaller central government to protect personal liberties and keep the power in the state governments. And this discussion was especially important because it helped to lay the groundwork for the rest of the year. So most of the argumentative essays that we write, either on tests or for homework, you cite these 2.
So I chose the Paradoxes of the Presidency. So for a little bit of context, this was a text that was assigned during Unit 2 of AP Government, in which we analyzed the 3 branches of the the 3 branches of the government, as well as the bureaucracy. So this came in the second of those 4 sections when we talked about the executive branch, and specifically analyzing the role of the president within that. So the Paradoxes of the Presidency is essentially different things that the president is expected to fulfill within their role within the government, but then also criticisms that come along with those. So I have 2 here that I found the most important. So number 5 of the 9, we want a president who can unify diverse people and interests. However, the job requires taking firm stands, making unpopular or controversial decisions that necessarily upset and divide. And then another one, Americans want powerful, self-confident presidential leadership, yet we are inherently suspicious of leaders who view themselves as infallible and above criticism. So you can kind of see where those would be paradoxes within themselves. And then additionally, we also analyzed how the current president, Joe Biden, as well as the previous president, Donald Trump, either fulfilled or, I guess fulfilled in either way, either the positives or negatives of those paradoxes.
So the discussion that I decided to talk about was the most recent, and that was bureaucracy. And the discussion pointed to the idea of whether free market agencies or government agencies are better suited to meet the needs of the public. and we discussed a real-life example of the government's failed plan to rebuild the Woolman ice rink in New York City. And then after the rink entered the free market, it was taken over by Donald Trump, and due to the rink entering the free enterprise, he was able to efficiently rebuild it for a lower cost and time than the government was ever able to. This helped us learn that oftentimes free market agencies don't have to meet the same expectations and requirements of the government. And this discussion led to the class scoring higher on the bureaucracy quiz because it equipped us with a real-life example, allowing everyone to better understand the complexity of the topic.
All right, thank you. So that's sort of an expression of what the conversation is and sort of how the kids are engaging with and what they're taking away from it. So if there's any questions, I'm welcome.
My only question is,
Sure.
at the end, the outcome, like, how do the students, and maybe for you guys, like, because sometimes, you know, a lot of people get really heated in debates and then they can't even talk about things afterwards. Like, how have you guys dealt with it in class? I mean, are you able to have different opinions and then still be friends and respectful at the end of it?
I think that since it's guided and we have an article to base it off of, that we never really get to a point where we can't talk about it because we always have something else, the next question to go to.
I think the other thing too is like Mr. Osing said, is our groups are normally comprised of people with all different types of views. So even if there's two people that completely disagree, there's going to be someone in the middle who can kind of like moderate the debate a little bit. So we all end up working as a team and kind of coming to a collective conclusion as a class.
One of the things that I strongly introduce is that intelligent people can disagree with you. And that's sort of the premise by which I introduced the discussion model to the class. And so if we just sort of start from the premise that other people are intelligent even when they disagree with you and disagree with you for legitimate reasons, that sort of sets the groundwork by which the conversation is really two people who respect each other and then are having that conversation. And I think that's really the basis that it needs to start. So.
Okay. Questions?
Very good. Very interesting. I think you probably do some good out in the real world, not just you can expand this program beyond the walls of the high school. I guess I just, again, first of all, every time I hear these presentations, I'm like, I want to go back to high school. This looks like so much fun.
I know.
You guys are really lucky. But for the students, did you feel like you grew through the process, like definitely opening your perspectives to other, other ideas? And did you maybe change your mind on certain topics? And I'm kind of following up with what Scott said. Did you feel like you were emotionally, did you ever feel like you couldn't share your thoughts or your opinions, or did you feel like you were in I hate to say this, but like a safe space?
Yeah, I think I really valued the opportunity to use the Harkness model. I think it's refreshing to be able to hear different perspectives, rather than just like a teacher talking to everyone. I do think that there was definitely a safe enough space for everyone to share their ideas as freely as they chose. None of these topics have been extremely polarizing. Obviously, people come with different political views, and that's fair, and that's going to be accounted for. But it's never to a point where it's so polarizing that people are upset with each other's views. I think everyone has a level of respect for each other in this class where we can all appreciate that.
And I think also we often saw like two opposing views. Like with Federalist 10 and Brutus 1, you saw two opposite viewpoints. So even if you didn't agree with one, you were kind of forced to understand the other one. And that helped you better understand maybe why a person would feel one way or another.
I think also with, because we've done so many at this point, even if at first you were kind of afraid to give your opinion, you kind of learn through time that the whole point of the discussion is for you to find your voice and figure out what we're actually talking about. So I think it just gave us the opportunity to do that.
That's great.
And the last thing I'll say to that question, to that point, is we do have a lot more foundational conversations in the beginning of the year that I think creates that atmosphere of respect. And semester 2 gets a little more controversial. The groundwork has been laid by then, so it's good.
Very good. Very interesting.
Do you ever get surprised by the conclusions that come up?
Oh, definitely. I feel like every time I do it, I enjoy listening to the conversation because there's so much synergy in the groups, and I feel like I feed off of that. And I've definitely, had perspectives that I hadn't thought about before. And that's really the point of it all.
That's great.
Okay.
Really cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. LaPrat.
All right, well, thank you. Okay, next up. We're gonna, dare we say, change it up a little bit? I don't know. Yeah. We have a different soundtrack for this one than we just had for the last one. So this is Mr. Archambault, addressing the whole student through fitness and a little rhythm and dance. All right, take it away.
Do you want us to move up there? Do you want to come down here? 'Cause
That would be,
Is there gonna be dancing?
there's going to be dancing.
if you want to. Mrs. Lester maybe
Oh,
told me a
perfect.
little bit that there, when she said something.
That would
If you
be
want us to
great.
Go up in the stands. We'll do
Yeah,
that.
that'd be awesome.
Okay.
I'm not going to be dancing,
You're
but
not going to dance?
so
I got the same coat though. I just got it from the fundraiser.
there you go. So just as a little intro, just so people understand in terms of the physical education curriculum at the high school, a lot of it is geared around lifelong fitness. So it's not old school dodgeball and stuff like that, but it's more about that lifelong fitness. So we focus on whether it's lifetime activities such as golf, frisbee, pickleball, stuff like that, and then we do have a large focus on fitness and then rhythm and dance through that. So the way our dance rhythm and dance unit works is in 9th grade, students they all learn several popular dances. One of them is the Virginian reel. They research a bunch of variety genres of dance, and they pick a specific dance. They learn it. It could be from a wedding. It could be from a musical. It could be from a Just Dance video, whatever they like. They learn that freshman year, and then they teach that dance to the class. And then by the time they get to sophomore year, they kind of take what they've learned in 9th grade, and they choose any genre of dance that they've researched and learned about, and then they create their own dance. So they kind of have that creative, they have to use that creative flexibility to kind of choose and create their own dance, and then they teach that dance to the class. So a couple just videos of us in action here. I don't know if there's music, if there's sound to it. This is us in action in our beautiful auxiliary gym. And then as part of our rhythm and fitness, another thing that we introduced this year, I don't know, is we did some step aerobics. Okay, so we had everyone doing some step aerobics, working on our rhythm as part of our rhythm and dance unit. So we had a group leading up in front. They created their own routines, and then they kind of taught those routines to the class. And then, all right. So, do you want to explain the assignment a little bit?
Our assignment was to create a 3-minute long dance that incorporates the 5 elements of dance, which are body, action, space, time, and energy. And our dance project, we chose to do
Pop,
Pop.
we chose 24 Karat Magic because it was something that we all kind of knew the rhythm to already, so we could like easily make a dance out of it.
We spent like 4 to 6 classes learning it, and then we taught about a minute of our dance to the rest of the class, and then we did it all together at the end.
Ready to do this?
Yeah.
Wherever you want, you can go right up behind.
Do I go up in front of his Better in front of him, imagine?
Yeah.
Is this enough space in here?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wherever you guys want.
You guys got it. You're doing great. All right, hold on. Let me just get the music lined up. Okay, Joe. I'll move this aside. I don't know.
Awesome job, guys, really. Yes.
Great job, girls.
Going back up. Give you guys all the credit for coming and doing that, honestly. You guys were great.
Not an easy thing
Okay.
to do. They did great.
Awesome.
Power of Bruno Mars. There it is.
Awesome.
You got that, right? You got it all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we were going to see the Virginia reel.
Yes.
I was going to
that
say,
was-
but this is by far the best presentation AJ's ever done to us.
I told you, I said, we were really gonna kind of open it up a little bit tonight with the breadth. Okay. So we've gone from kind of wellness to inquiry and fitness, and now we're moving into creativity. So you may recall last year, we included a new course, AP 2D Art, into the program of study. So I thought it'd be a nice opportunity to hear from Mr. Dexter after, kind of one semester in, and get an update on how that AP art class is going. He's got some students here too. So come on up. You have an intro song for that or no?
No.
Okay.
What a tough act to follow up with here, huh? Well, I brought along 3 outstanding students, people, and artists along with me, Piper Kerwin, Danica Reed, and Stella De Silva. And we'd like to talk to you about the work that they've done so far in Advanced Placement 2D Art and Design. The course is the most advanced visual arts course that is designed for juniors and seniors students planning to major or minor in visual arts in college. The program's an inquiry-based approach to learning about and making art and design. There are 2 main portions of the exam that is submitted in May. The first one is called the Sustained Investigation, SI for short, and it represents 60% of the exam score. Students need to submit 15 digital images of work of art and process documentation that demonstrates sustained investigation through practice, experimentation, and revision. This work is supported by writing about the questions of inquiry that guided the sustained investigation. And lastly, describe how the sustained investigation shows evidence of practice, experimentation, and revision guided by the questions of inquiry.
One question on it. Digital images of works, so pictures of photos, or could it be anything, like ceramics? Could it be, like, just what constitutes that?
Sure. Well, the sustained investigation is really insight into the student's mindset of their like sort of their research question that they're just burning to figure out. So within some of those slides, it's not just necessarily the most beautiful art that you've ever seen that they're able to produce, but there's sort of like breadcrumbs along the way of showing the viewer how they have developed their how they're achieving their sustained investigation, how they're doing their research and coming up with those conclusions. So within the 15 images that could include like brainstorming sketches, inspiration slides, things like that. But the 2D, yeah. And the school could also offer 3D. The students could also submit 3D portfolios as well as drawing portfolios, and those all have some distinctions. And that would be pretty easy to do, but based on the group of students that we have on the roster this year, we're pretty satisfied with the constraints within the 2D. So I'd like to bring up Piper and Danica to talk about their sustained investigation.
So mine is the one on the left, and my sustained investigation is basically how can I use different materials to convey what animals might look like through another animal's vision. So this one that I did is a picture of a mountain lion, and I don't know if any of you recognize that type of vision, but it's from a snake's point of view. So it's all the infrared and what basically a mountain lion kind of crouching down. Right, it's because mountain lions are like snakes' prey, so I tried to make it kind of follow like the food chain and what that would look like from a snake's perspective. So that one's done with oil pastel on oil pastel paper. And I focused a lot on like the blending and kind of the movement of the actual thing itself.
So you did a snake's perspective. What other animal's perspective did you?
So I haven't, this one's my really big one. I have a couple of sketches from like fly perspective, which are all the different like hexagons.
So cool.
And then a ton of like under the ocean stuff, so like the water and like kind of echolocation, and sharks have a very specific way of seeing things. So I'm just trying to research a little bit more about that. So.
Very cool.
Interesting.
So these two pieces are pieces I created early on in my investigation, and my sustained investigation is kind of on the basis of the evolution of technology and how it relates to the socialization of our world. And this first piece on the left is kind of referring to the idea of how technology allows us to communicate through barriers of like distance and just like other not being able to see people and communicate face to face. And then the next one is kind of more referring to technology such as like cameras and how that allows us to capture moments in relationships between people, and what different technology kind of allows us to view relationships. And these are kind of earlier works, and since then my sustained investigation has kind of evolved and changed as I research. So now my inquiry statement is kind of changed to a more broadened look at how technology and the way it changes and becomes more advanced affects our society as a whole.
And actually, so you said it's changed a little bit. So when you come up with the idea, is it just sort of a premise, and then you can start modifying your vision a little bit as you go into it?
Right, so the more like pieces I create and the more I start to research the ideas that I want to portray in those pieces, the more I kind of shift my focus, and the investigation just kind of furthers itself and morphs into a more specified or just different kind of look at things.
Are we going to be able to see more? I want to see like the progression. Is it going to be displayed anywhere or anything like so we could see like what some of this other work that, like you said, this was earlier on. Like I'd love to see where it goes from there. Do we get to see it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, certainly in the spring we have the art portfolio art show, which is also part of the senior art show. So I'm guessing you'll see a lot of pieces in there and see the progression.
Okay. Very cool.
And so we have, and then the other piece of the exam is the selected works, SW for short, 40% of the exam score. And this represents the 5 greatest hits that the artist can produce. 5 digital images of 5 works that each demonstrate synthesis of materials, processes, and ideas using 2D art and design skills. Make and present works of art and design with minimal constraints, and always supported in writing the ideas which need to be visually evident, materials used, as well as the processes. So this might be, the sustained investigation is like the big experiment that students are trying to achieve, and the selected works are just the most refined pieces that are more sort of objectively, aesthetically beautiful. And important to note that the scores of the exam there are like 2 to 3 different scores. So the score for the SI is always different from the SW, which makes it pretty interesting and much more like sort of like a non-biased judging, I guess you'd say. And they're always cross-referenced by an additional person as well. So here are a few early selected works. Stella, you want to talk about your selected work?
Yeah, so mine is the one on the right, and the idea was to have a swan be the focus of the drawing, but I also wanted like very lush vegetation around it, sort of, so the swan would blend into its background and its environment. And I used only blue colored pencils and blending stomps, and I decided to go for a more like a completely monochromatic look to kind of emphasize the blending of the swan into its environment.
Really cool. It is so stunning. Please tell me you're studying art in school.
No. You said no?
No. No? Oh, God, okay.
You have to be an accountant.
What you're looking to achieve with the cherries?
Yeah. So mine is the one in the middle, and for that one, although it's not really related to the ideas in my sustained investigation, it's kind of a work on its own that I wanted to kind of look at like texture and how I can portray texture using different mediums, and I really wanted to focus on bold colors and a really like airbrushed type of look on this one, and yeah.
And Vanessa's at hockey tonight, so
Yeah.
sorry she can't be here.
Wow, those are all amazing.
Great.
Awesome job. Very nice. Any
Well
questions?
Well done.
That was just fascinating.
Yeah. Excellent.
What I find really interesting about the process of the AP exam is that, you know, you have on one hand students that are really strong in art and feel like they can make a really beautiful piece every time they put a pencil to a piece of paper, so to speak. But then the other part of it is students, the sustained investigation, which is really putting in the work to achieve the research and the work involved to really, you know, communicate something really specific that is not necessarily something that you can just kind of sketch up over a weekend. It takes a long time for it to kind of brew and fully formulate.
And this AP, is this new recently? I'm
New this year,
New this
yes.
year, okay. I love that we're able to offer the AP for like these different disciplines. That's like it sort of just gives a lot more opportunities for different types of intelligence to kind of be shown to. It's amazing. I just very impressed.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Okay,
So
thank you
cool.
guys. Thank you all of you. Okay. Mr. LaPratt?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
So I think kind of as I began our presentation, just that idea of achieving what I hoped it would, right, is that we're recognizing tremendous student work and tremendous student ability, but also to take a moment and say, well, we've got really good players because we have really good coaches. And, you know, from the counseling side all the way to kind of the creative side. Very happy to say thank you for tonight's time.
Thank you very much.
Separate agenda.
Oh, it's a separate,
Yeah.
One second. Is
Yeah.
that Piper's coat, by the way, or not? Okay, I want to make sure nobody left their coat. Yes, Dr. Daly.
Just to say thank you
Yeah.
to Mr. LaPrade and Ms. Alonso, who's here as well, for just a great job of coming up with this. I know that all these things take many years, even just coming up with the AP curriculum or changes to it. It's a lot of conversations about, you know, how we're going to roll this out, everything from universal screeners, and so I want to thank our leaders as well as our teachers and students. So great job.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay. Now we're moving on to the course. Is that where we're at then? Yes, the course. Or
We
do you
can
want
take
to?
out of order, there's a.
What do we- yeah.
So, is anyone here from the DECA group, or is this all the student council? So we'll do student council.
Okay.
First.
Is this a trip request or something?
It is an overnight trip request.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I wasn't sure.
Would you like to come on up?
Come on up.
Hi, so I'm Emery Cordero. I'm the Student Council President, and I'm here presenting and seeking approval for an overnight trip to the MAC State Conference. So, MAC State Conference, MASC stands for Massachusetts Association of Student Councils, and every year in March, they do this big state conference with student councils across the state, and then every year we go and represent our region. So the people who go, we get to bring 16 people in total. That includes the officers and select student council members. So to be selected to go to the state conference, people they filled out an interest form, wrote an essay about what leadership meant to them, and then the student council officers and Ms. Gilbert chose people that we thought would really it would be beneficial for them to go to this conference, and then they would bring the most back to our council. So it's the MAC State Conference. It's held annually from March 6th to 8th, which is a Wednesday through Friday this year. We would leave on Wednesday. It's 3 days and 2 nights. It's Wednesday through Friday, so we'd leave on Wednesday, take a bus down to the Cape Cod Resort and Conference Center in Hyannis. It takes like an hour and a half. We take a bus, and it's about $350 per person to go. So we think that it's very important for us to go to this state conference because at this conference, the polar plunge is held in association with Special Olympics, which relates to our unified program. And as you all know, we did the mobile polar plunge earlier this year, and we think it's important that we participate in the official polar plunge with the student and councils around the state. And then this conference also includes numerous leadership workshops. That's what the conference is mostly about. And we would attend these workshops and bring the leadership skills and lessons that we learn back to our council, so next year we could be even better and implement those things into our own council here. And then NRHS needs to maintain our presence on a state level. This year we unfortunately don't have anybody on the state board as like president or secretary, when in past years we've had like Dan Madden and Annie Cooperstein. So by going to this conference, we would really keep our presence there. We also want to keep our status as a gold standard council, which is presented to us at the state conference. And by being a gold standard council, we could keep bringing 16 people to this conference, so we can have more people from the council going to this conference and learning more things. And we also are nominated for many things. We have like the top 10 student council award, and then we have several students nominated for these statewide awards like Unsung Hero and James Orgis Award, which is actually these two. And if we win those awards, we have to be in attendance to accept them. So because of all these, we think it's important that we go to this state conference.
Excellent. Any questions? How many members of the student council are there?
I think there's over 150.
Okay, and that's 9 through 12?
Yeah.
Anybody have questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the trip to
Hyannis.
MASC.
Yeah. I move that we approve the student council trip to Hyannis for the MASC conference.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Have fun, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. We got more trips?
We do, should we do those quickly, or do
Yes
you want
or
to do
not?
I have 2 other trips.
Do the
Sure,
trips, or you
let's-
wanna
let's
go?
just do them while we're.
Is there anybody here for them, or you can do them later, that's fine.
I think it's just myself, but Mr. LaPret might be able to answer a question if I have one.
Okay.
So,
You can do them that quick.
Next one is the DECA.
It's a good thing we have these as like standing
Yes.
item now.
There's an overnight trip proposal for DECA.
Right, these would be the students that made the second round?
Correct. So,
Yep, we saw that one.
District 4 competition, December 12th and 13th. 13 members placed in the top 6 and are moving on to states. And the request is from March 7th to March 9th. to stay at the Boston Copley Marriott and Heinz Convention Center. It's a 2-night stay. They're departing from school on Thursday, March 7th at 1:30. They would have an absence from school on Friday, 3/8. Return to North Reading at 1:30 on Saturday, 3/9. They'd be traveling by van. There's a cost of $300 to $400 per student, covered by the student club and fundraising activities, student and club fundraising activities.
I'm assuming there's no overlap with the student council because they're at the same time, right?
They would have to work that out, yeah. I was thinking that as I was reading it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on it? I didn't have any questions from it. Want to make a motion?
Sure.
Jeff?
I move that the school committee approve the DECA conference overnight trip to Boston Copley Marriott.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
And I have one, this is an overnight trip for the varsity boys hockey team, traveling to Falmouth, Massachusetts on February 19th to participate in the Jeff Hayes Memorial Tournament, sponsored by the Sandwich High School Hockey Boosters. They're scheduled to play their first game at 6 p.m. on Monday, February 19th at the Gala Rink in Bourne, Mass. They will also play on Tuesday, February 20th, either 4 or 6. The team will travel and stay with their parents at Seacrest Beach Hotel in Falmouth, Mass. The team is expected to arrive back in North Reading with their parents on Tuesday evening, February 20th, 2024.
February break.
Yeah, that's over the break, right? Yeah. Okay, we've done this before. You want to make a motion, anyone? Jeff?
Sure.
Roll.
Yeah.
Move to approve the boys hockey team overnight trip to Falmouth, Mass.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
I have one other that.
Oh, one more?
I know. These all came in today. This one is not an overnight trip. It is a out-of-state trip. It's still within the distance for a field trip, but it's over state line, so I figured I'd just share it, just so we're clear. This is from the athletic department for the varsity boys baseball team to play a non-league game at Bedford versus Bedford at Dodd Stadium in Norwich, Connecticut. The team will travel with their coaches by van Thursday, April 18th for a 1 p.m. game. They will then return back to North Reading on the same day.
One day.
Yeah. My only question is, I mean, we're approving it just because it's over state line?
I'm just sharing it with you. If you, there's not a policy that I'm aware of that you need to approve it, but it was given to me to share, and I figured I would just share it as well. So if you want to approve it, you can. I think within this limit, it's usually superintendent school approval. It is over state lines, so.
Whose trip was it?
This is for
Baseball.
varsity boys baseball, yeah.
I don't know that we need to approve going to if it's not an overnight trip.
Not an overnight travel, so it doesn't fall under travel. There's nothing about overnight, so.
Yeah, because if anybody goes to New Hampshire, I don't think we have to approve if,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be fine.
Canopy Lake and stuff, yeah.
I have no issue with the trip. I just don't know if we need an official
Yep.
approval for this.
I don't think we've approved the cross-state, but it was given to me today, and I just
Yep.
wanted to share it.
I
It's
see
easier
no
to do
issue
that
with it.
now than try to deal with it later.
Yeah, no, I
And
see no
now
issue.
we are back to Mr. LaPret,
Yep.
who is going to share about course.
Right.
Yes, we're going for.
Thank you.
ceramics.
Yeah, so we do have one new course request, and my hope in that dazzling you with the AP Art, you would be a little bit more kind of softened up to approve Ceramics 2. So again, when we talk about looking at the program of study and kind of breadth and depth and the ability, the capacity to offer new courses and to do them in a way that we're not setting up a system where, courses are competing for, small number of students for the same department or things like that. This Ceramics 2 course fits in pretty nicely. We do have kind of a Ceramics 1, and some of the artwork that you see there and developing there is very good, and there's some talented students, just as you saw from the 2D art. There's some really talented potters, so to speak, or artists in that sense, in that medium. So it would be a nice opportunity to offer this course. From the language that I shared with you, I believe, with respect to the course description, you can see that it would really allow opportunities for students to finely tune their artistic skills, their creativity. I met with the instructor around the curriculum itself and kind of topic-based curriculum and things like that. So I think it's in a really good place, and I hope you would approve it to be added to the program of study.
Questions?
Do we have a kiln on site?
We do. We have 2 kilns.
Do we really? That's awesome.
I mean, I'll preface my question by saying I will vote to approve it, but I'm going to ask questions here just because we are at a time where we're starting to talk about the budget, and the budget's really going to be tight, and without an override at June town meeting, Mr. Simons, we will be probably cutting positions, and so my concern is always in something like this where do we have enough interest in this? Do you have any idea, like, how many students would be both eligible, because there are prerequisites,
Sure,
and
right.
interested in taking this class?
So, we looked at the feasibility of that, and we talked, we actually ran with Mr. Dexter as the curriculum leader in the art department, ran a pretty comprehensive kind of enrollment study, and looked at how students that had opportunities for their first elective, how many picked a business class, how many picked an art class, and kind of how do you get 2 layers deep? How do you get into ceramics too? And when does that happen, and entry points and things like that. And again, in meeting with, we have 1 teacher that teaches ceramics. So in meeting with that teacher, and let's say using kind of an AP course as a model and saying, well, guess what? We only had 5 kids that took AP Spanish.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're going to run it concurrently with Spanish 5. We're going to make it work. Let's not just make the low enrollment the deal killer. So in speaking to that teacher and saying, look, what if we had an opportunity where we're going to run this course concurrently with your other ceramics class, which we have a lot of students that take ceramics. What does that look like? And I think it looks very possible.
Okay.
I would not take a section away from 23 and say, all right, you got these 4.
Right.
We're going to run it together, and the teacher's on board. So again, if there's real interest there and again, an opportunity for a student to really develop their skill as something for a portfolio and then art school later on, absolutely, let's make that happen, and I think we can. I wouldn't, not at the cost of something else, obviously.
I mean, if the number was a low enrollment, that was my follow-up question,
Yeah.
is if it could be.
How do we do that? Yeah.
Something like that, like we.
Yeah, we're absolutely looking at all of those options.
Okay. Any other questions or
You
concerns?
basically asked my questions, just to, if we had the resources and the interest, and it sounds
Yeah.
like you have both, so.
Okay. So if nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to approve the class. Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the new curriculum of Ceramics 2 for North Reading High.
To start it in 2024, 2025?
Yes, thank you.
To start in 24, 25.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaPrat.
All right, well, I appreciate
Mrs. Alonso?
your attention tonight, and was, always happy to share what's going on at the high school.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So much, nice job. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have the school year calendar for 2024, 2025. It so happens that every single time there's a comment on the community connection page about the calendar, the next meeting, we vote on it. Literally every single year
was
for like
the
the last
comment?
4 years.
People didn't like our
Somebody
calendar?
said, what's the first day of school next year? And so I was like, I'm gonna guess it's coming up soon, and here it is. Dr. Daly, you wanna walk us through this, or?
It's always right around this time of year. Yes, thank you. So this is, we've been through many drafts here to get to this place. It's a later start, with Labor Day being on the 2nd.
What do you mean later? It's an early, I mean, you mean it's.
It's earlier. I'm
As
sorry.
opposed to where Labor Day is. it's
But
a little
it,
bit after.
yeah, I'm sorry, but it gives us some different kind of parameters in terms of our contract and not starting before the 1st. So
Yeah.
it's a later start for some of the preschool activities. What we're proposing is, we have a lot of interest from both the teachers and the administration to have a professional development day early in the school year. We're quite possibly launching some new programs that Mr. Colleen's been overseeing the pilot of this year, and so that and just the general feedback whenever possible for us to have professional learning ahead of the school year is really kind of powerful. Then we would have our Welcome Back Day. That would then push our first day of school to the 5th, and the first day of school for pre-K and K to the following Monday. So typically that happens on the Friday, but that is one change there a little bit. We did talk with a lot of the experts in that area. I heard from my principals, and the teachers were okay with that model. We then have our 5 half-days for professional development, as well as a second full day on the 14th. We added a few things to the calendar. Some of these things may remain in the published version, some may not, but I added the number of school days each month. And we also added the 180th day, which just is a way of seeing that is the day, that'd be sort of the last day of school if there are no snow days, and then the 26th would be the last day of school with 5 snow days. So we tried to really balance, you can see there at the bottom as well, the number of days in the trimesters, the quarters, as well as, looking at how many days are in each month, not trying to take too many days from December, for example, that only has 15 days next year. It's a longer winter break next year, just based on the days. And the one thing I wanted to share, last year, 22, we did have a half day on the 23rd. We felt like that was very close. A lot of people might travel for the Christmas holiday, and so doing the half day. This year, I heard from some folks that we didn't have a half day on the Friday, but it was the 22nd, so you're that much further. This is sort of, there's a part of me that said, maybe just do that and it makes it easier. But this year, it's like, it's the 20th, like you're quite a ways away. And then the question is like, well, why are we doing it just for travel that day? Why not for other vacations? So I wanted to at least bring that forward to hear any thoughts or discussion here, but.
I mean, my comment on that is actually more of, if the Christmas holiday wasn't on the Wednesday, we probably wouldn't have the 23rd off even. And so like, cause we're going from, this year it was a 6-day, there were 6 days off for the thing, and now we're 8 days. And so, I mean, I understand that nobody's going to want to come for one day on the 23rd and then be off. So I'm guessing that's probably where, to me, I think that's maybe the compromise to answer the people that wanted the day, the Friday off. But I think I would love to get out of school as soon as we can, frankly. And so I would almost prefer not to even have 8 days, but I'm sure that won't be popular. So we'll have to do the full week and a half. But
yeah, I can't imagine the necessity. I mean, of that be, or you were speaking about people wanting
the 20th off half day. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, I think people like, I like how, like, for example, with April break, you do that half day going into that. Like, those are nice when you can build that in. I don't think anyone should expect the 20th to be a half day.
I got one of those texts about that half day, and I wasn't very receptive to it. So.
And is the March professional? Is there usually a full professional development day in March, or is it usually like a half day?
We always have 2 full days, and they've varied where they've been. For many years, we had that on the one of the days was on election day. We are now returning to a half day on election day, but we're not doing the full day that day. So March is a longer month that we always try to break up. It's a good mid-year point to check in with staff. So we've done something around that time when we've been possible. I don't know if you want to share anything on that, Mr. Cleveland.
No. Yeah.
So
that's a nice little gift in the bleak month of March.
Yeah.
There's all tricks with testing and trying to balance that out.
Yeah,
So.
no, looks good. I can only imagine how much work it is to try to work through it. So.
This is at least version 7, yeah, because I want to thank everyone who catches all those typos and mistakes and questions. And we do share it with our unions for feedback and suggestions as well, so thank you to them.
Patrick, why is the 2nd of September and the 29th of November in pink? I'm just curious.
Those are just no school days, that's just the,
Just the color coding didn't make sense to me. I was just
Yeah.
curious if there was something else. I could see if it was Thanksgiving, but I was like, it doesn't make sense to me, but maybe it makes sense to them.
Yeah,
Just
that's,
curious.
I adopted this year from Anne, who's done it for the last 20 years, and I think this is the way that we would have done it. I kind of rolled things forward, but
I was like, does that mean something that I don't know about?
yeah, I guess it could be the same as the Thanksgiving Day. Usually just the no school days are just, they're extra days. It does impact, I think this could be somewhat of it, and maybe it's not completely accurate, but this is really the student-teacher paraprofessional kind of, but for the people that work year-round, they don't necessarily get all those holidays. So it's a little bit different with some of those days. But
I was just curious.
quite honestly, if that were completely true, there's probably some other colors that would need to change elsewhere. But I think that's where those come from.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes some sense, Mike.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have no big questions or concerns. Anybody else?
Very good.
You want to make a motion to approve this calendar for 2024-25? Are we at the point of approving it, or
I believe so,
are you waiting
yeah.
for anybody? Because I know you look for comments from various bargaining units.
Yep,
You've
we've
gotten
had all
everything.
that feedback's all included in what you see here tonight. So we started this work in December.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Sure. I move to approve the school calendar for 24-25 for North Reading Public Schools.
Second?
Motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Passes 4-0.
This will be going out very soon.
Okay. I'm making it easy for Cindy when she's back here today. Okay, minutes. This is about, well, you want to lead us in the minutes?
Yeah, I can't access, but I can.
Yeah, the
see-
executive session, we
Yeah, I
couldn't open.
access that one, but,
We couldn't open that one.
but regardless, I move to approve
Let's go to approve it
the
anyways.
executive session of the school committee, the meeting on November 27th, 2023, trusted as written.
We have a motion, I need a second.
Second?
Oh, the second person today,
I
any
am the official
questions?
second person.
No, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0, no abstentions, right? You were there, everybody's there?
Yep.
Okay, passes 4-0.
I move to approve the open session minutes of the school committee meeting on November 27th, 2023 as written.
Second?
We have a motion second, that one I did read. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? No, all those, passes 4-0. Okay, budget update, Mr. Connolly?
Yes, thank you. So the December budget report was included in the packet. This summarizes financial activity through the end of Q2 of fiscal year 2024, which is essentially through the end of December. Nothing really significantly new from the last report. We still are in pretty solid financial standing as we complete the second quarter of the fiscal year. Some of the things that we're watching is there's some special education costs that have kind of on the horizon with some students moving into the district. We continue to see a need to provide additional academic support and tutoring services and compensatory services for special education students. That's still, everything's kind of within budgeted ranges at this point, but we're just continuing to track and watch those trends. The report includes some balances in instructional expense accounts as well as some professional development accounts, but we anticipate that as we move through the second half of the school year, that these areas will start to be encumbered, and as these needs arise through the school year, some of those items were planned for the second half of the year. On the payroll side, I think the accounts are all within budgeted amounts. As you know, we've recently settled the contract with the paraprofessionals, and we are planning and working with the paraprofessional union to submit retro payments as in accordance with the new contract, but everything.
Just to be clear on the retro payments, this was all for this year, though, so.
Correct.
It wasn't like a last year's budget that was held over.
That's
This is
correct.
all this year's
Yep,
anyways.
that's correct. So we are working through that process, but all of the impact of that is included and reflected in the report. Certainly seeing some leave of absences, which is nothing kind of outside the norm of the trends that we're used to seeing, but we're certainly monitoring the impact of the long-term substitute accounts and so forth. But everything is kind of trending within budget right now. The food service program, which I do monthly updates, is performing well. Really, that should say really through the first 4 months of the school year. We're seeing good participation, particularly at the middle school, which is really, really up significantly than the other schools, but everything is trending up. And that's good to see. We have over 70% of the student population participating in the school meals program. One of the things that we are working on, we have a little bit of time to put this together, but there was a new bill passed in December that does require universal free breakfast access for all students, which we are doing at the middle school and the high school. We have to kind of expand our program at the elementary school because right now it's really tailored towards the before school program. And we need to make sure and develop a program that provides access for all students. So we're working on that, and hopefully we'll be able to put that together.
Would that be more, are the people that serve lunches, or lunches already there at the beginning of the day, or would we have to bring people in earlier for that?
We might have to bring some folks in a little bit earlier for that, at the elementary schools.
And do you think there would be an interest of the current staff to do that if more hours were offered?
I think so. I think we'll get it funded, get it staffed. I do. And I think, through the first half of the school year, certainly needs have come up on the maintenance end, on other areas, but we've been able to address those additional costs, and I think we are in good standing through the first half of the fiscal year. So we'll just open up to any questions.
I have 4 questions, some on topic, some off topic. Number one, the 70%, does that take into account second lunches? Because I know that, maybe it's just my kid, but I know it's not. I know a lot of kids are getting second lunches. Like they're getting their free lunch and then they're going back and buying a lunch on top of it.
So it does not.
So could that be why it's showing 70%? Because some kids are buying 2, so it counts. Are they just looking at the number of lunches sold versus the number of students?
We are looking at the number of lunches, the participation in the number of type A lunches sold. Okay. So that would be first lunch.
So if somebody bought 2 lunches, that could be showing, it could not be 70%, it could be 60%, and then some kids are buying 2 lunches, so it's showing.
That's correct. Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
Because I know at least some groups of students are buying multiple lunches.
We are seeing that. Okay. Correct.
So I was just wondering on that 70% number, or if that second lunches were even above and beyond the 70%. So
that's correct.
Student IDs for lunches, has that gone anywhere yet? I know that was an idea of the student IDs. Are they able to use them for lunches yet or not?
We're not. No.
Yeah, my understanding is we're working towards that.
Yeah.
Okay. Third, the bus ride app. I noticed today, the one day I wanted to look at it, they didn't actually update at least my kid's bus.
Oh, really?
I'm just wondering how that's working and if that's.
Yeah, it's working well. Okay. There is time to time where I do hear of parents saying, the bus ride app wasn't working or it wasn't showing the bus, and it's usually
they probably have some
technical glitches, and bus ride has a support team that they can kind of email and call, and they usually work them through that directly. But there's some time to time that does happen, but for the most part, I think it's been working pretty well.
Usually it's good. I was just wondering today, and the delay, I was just going
to with the cold weather
and it wasn't there. Okay. But then the broader one, I sent this to you, and I don't know if you saw my
I did
email,
see that.
And I don't know if you responded because I didn't look back. But can you comment at all on the information that came out from the state today on the budget deficit in the state and what it's the impact for this year, which it seems like nothing versus next year?
So there was word from the state budget that they're making kind of mid-year 9C cuts, impacted some line items within the state budget. The good news is it's several they lay out the line items. It's mostly kind of some grants and some other programs. Some of those are educational, innovative grants and programs that were supported. So it's not good news to actually see that, revenue is kind of trending a little bit low and that they're actually making 9C cuts for the first time in several years. But in terms of North Reading, and we don't see an immediate impact this current year, as they're not making cuts to local aid or Chapter 70, our direct funding. That's part of our revenue plan. From what I saw, all the programs that were kind of line item detailed that were being impacted, we don't currently have a grant, or we're not part of that. So it's not having a direct impact on North Reading currently, but I think it's what's going to be important that we kind of watch those trends as the governor would release his budget later this month. So the fact that that could have an impact, what that impact will be will remain to be seen, but I never want to kind of see this happen, but it's not having a direct impact on us right now.
I was reading through the comments and thinking it was in the finance planning team meeting because literally they're talking about we're going to balance the budget with the interest income because it's higher than expected, and we usually don't use that for the operational
Mhm.
budget, and that's literally what we've been doing in North Reading is saying we have deficits and we have more interest income than we've had because of the interest rates being so high, and so it's happening on the state level as
Right.
well now, so.
Just,
Okay,
I
yeah.
understand, Michael, the MASC did share that out too, that the cuts to the state's 56 billion spending plan for fiscal '24 won't impact school funding or local aid. The administration said, nor are state officials planning to lay off any government employees.
Yep. Just on the budget update, I figured I'd just
Yep, that's good.
bring that up here. Okay, staffing. Dr. Daly?
Just a few staffing updates. Miss Molly Sullivan, long-term substitute teacher for kindergarten. Sarah Mills is the Title I literacy tutor at the middle school. Ryan Smith, long-term substitute for ELA at the middle school. And Edward Pellegrino is a long-term sub custodian on the second shift.
Very good. Bids and donations. Jeff, do you mind leading us tonight?
I do not mind. Give me one sec. I move that we accept, the school committee vote to accept with gratitude, the donation of $7,293 from the North Reading Hornet Hall of Fame to be used toward the track hurdles at the North Reading High School.
Second?
I'll just say that, I mean, the Hall of Fame has been great. A lot of the boosters have been very supportive in the last year or two, so.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Been a lot of work happening and a lot of donations, so. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation in the amount of $1,000 from Mr. Habo Shang, I'm probably mispronouncing that, so I apologize, to be used at the principal's discretion at the high school.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
It might be the third or fourth year in a row.
Oh, yeah?
That
Oh, nice.
that gentleman has offered that donation.
There's another one.
At
And
both,
here-
yeah,
and
at both
here,
schools.
so-
Yeah.
That's just,
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $1,000 from Mr. Haibo Shang, again, I apologize, to be used at the principal's discretion at the middle school.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, any thoughts? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
And the last one is, I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation in the amount of $2,918 from the North Reading Hornet Hall of Fame to be used toward fitness equipment at North Reading High School.
Second.
All those in, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. And I'll tease Mr. Connolly again. I do remember when these were in order, and I'm just kidding. Grants, we have a grant as well. And so, Dr. Daly, do you want to talk about it first, then we'll do the motion, or?
Sure. It is the chronic absenteeism. I did send something out recently to the community about this. This is an issue across the state, really, and it's been a problem. It's been, since the pandemic, it's been even more so. So they were able to allot about $10,000 that came to the district for us to talk about some different ways to address this crisis. This includes everything from parent outreach, family engagement, trying to encourage students to be in school, and to study this and to think about possibly some different ways for absent recovery. And so that's what we received. We applied for this, and we have to use the funds with accordance to how this is used. Thank you.
Used for things like the bridge program?
I'm not exactly sure of how that would be used, but quite possibly. And so one of the challenges is obviously if you create a recovery program, you don't want that to become the typical program, right? Where students are like, I'll take a day here, but I'll come on a Saturday or whatever that looks like. So we're going to be looking at different models here that could work, maybe partnering with some other districts. And So we thought that this was certainly something we wanted to look at. Our issue's a little bit different. Some of it's similar, but we've had people taking students out of school to travel and staying away. I think with more people working remotely, there's more flexibility in the adult schedule, and so they're pulling kids more. And so we've had to really work with some families on how important it is for them to be in school. The number of days, 10% of the school year, if you're absent 18 days, that becomes a chronic absence. And it doesn't matter whether it's an excused absence, medical absence, it's just basically the data they use for that is whether you're in school in front of a teacher or not. So we want to try to come up with some different ways to address that.
I have a question for students that are listed as chronically absent. Do you have any data on how much of it is travel versus illness versus like discipline, or like what does that look like?
We can share more specifics. It's definitely mixed and spread. So again, it's still going to show up as chronically absent, even if it's medically excused. I would say there's certainly a handful at each school where, and those are the concerns I hear. Like a principal's not going to bring to my attention if they are aware of it and it's a medical absence and we're trying to work around that. It's more when it's preventable, avoidable in terms of.
And also, I would wonder about mental health related absences even more.
Yep.
Because that's a little harder to.
It is.
Identify.
It is. Yep.
If that funding, I'm not sure if that would fit in. Maybe that's what you're talking about with the bridge program. Like if
Yes.
you're helping kids who there's a reason, mental health issue, that they're not being able to get into
Yep.
school.
And coming up with incentives and and that's part of that family engagement piece too, is to try to bridge that and bridge that gap and help with those transitions. And just to really inform people about how important it is to be in school for all those different supports. So we face different issues here, obviously, like in so many ways. There's a lot of schools that the absences then lead to a higher dropout rate, we have different issues, but we still have our concerns here, and that's why we qualified for this, so.
Okay, and so we have a grant, we have to have a motion to accept the grant.
Motion to accept the DESI grant for chronic absenteeism. Try and say that 10 times fast.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Overnight trip requests, I think we got all of them in.
We did.
Looks like there were no subcommittee updates since the last one.
Not at this-
Subcommittee meetings, finance planning team is meeting, I believe, on Friday at 8:15.
morning.
And we're in person, right, I believe? I think we said we're in person.
I'm not sure, I was wondering that myself.
I think we're in person.
I think we did say that.
Yeah. Athletic Subcommittee's meeting on January 16th at noon. Fine Arts Subcommittee's meeting on January 16th at 3:15 PM. Administrative report, Dr. Daly?
A few items.
CIPC's
Oh, wait.
meeting Wednesday this week.
Wednesday.
Yes.
Would you like me to include those? Because at one point we were asked not to do those, but I'm happy to include those.
You can. I mean, they happen so frequently or during this period that we'll miss them, but that's fine.
Okay, I
Yeah.
will.
And where are we, when are they voting? I mean, have we presented our
We're
stuff?
actually, I think we're a little
We've
ahead of
presented.
schedule than we've been in the past. I think
Oh,
we've
yeah.
seen all the department presentations at this point. Because the schools were actually the last one this year.
Or
And where are we at with the Hood School roof, too?
Uh,
Did you present it on that one, and what was
We
the?
did,
what were
we
the thoughts on
presented,
that?
I think it was received well.
Oh, yeah.
We presented the option of restoration in phases over a full replacement, over kind of a wait, and I think that seemed to be received well, like that was sort of the way to go for that project.
the only, I mean, this might not be a question for here, but the security system, they
Yes.
actually asked us to
Yeah.
go big or go home.
Right.
Are we gonna represent?
So I have the company that I've engaged is coming Wednesday to do a walkthrough, to hopefully, the timing of when we'll get that proposal, we'll represent.
Is that one school, or this campus, or all campuses?
I'm having them do all campuses. I think they were thinking like almost
Yeah.
town-wide.
So,
So,
just for everybody's edification, the presentation was basically replace what we have, which is sort of a passive system. And the comment back was, well, this is good, it's a good presentation, but why don't we try and think a little more aggressively about security in our schools and go for something more robust? And so, that's what's being done.
right, so we have a couple of companies we've worked, so we'll start engaging some companies to kind of do a walkthrough. because the company that, the presentation we had given and the number that was included, as Jeff said, was kind of like an in-kind, to replace the devices that we have, update some of the wiring that's been troubleshooting issues from our current alarm company. So we'll look to kind of redo that and see what the numbers look like, and what the options are and solutions could be.
And we clearly said, you know that bigger means more money.
Yeah.
That was-
Yeah.
That could also be something that we've had good support from our local officials and specifically on security initiatives, so that could be something that maybe we could reach out and let
Yeah, that was talked about.
Senator Carr and Brad Jones know about it.
Right.
Representative Jones know about it. Okay. Administrative report, Dr. Daly?
So great, so just a few updates here, the Project 351 Celtics Playbook Initiative and the Hate Crimes Bias Incident Workshops. Dr. O'Connell's been very much involved, Mr. Clean was actually here tonight, but also listening in on the video. Aiden Patel also, who was here tonight, they're involved in this. But the plan is for January 24th to have our first training session with our middle school students. So we're currently gathering all the groups together. And there are going to also be some larger group sessions with facilitators from the Northeastern Center for Sport and Society, hopefully in early February, 7th and 14th. We're hoping to have that training as well. So in addition, we are planning several different events this year that are going to be under the heading of a family university. We're leaning towards doing that as opposed to having like one day in March that everybody wants to go to but they can't make it to. We're going to have several events throughout the year. We're going to try that attempt. But we're going to work with the Lappin Foundation on an event for the community and student staff community to talk about this swastika symbol of hate, and then have a brief discussion. And we are making arrangements to also have a similar presentation to address the concerns around Islamophobia in the community and the world as well. And so we want to share both of those updates. We have applied once again for a diversification grant. If you recall, we got this grant last year. We received a notification that we could apply in a year 2, and so we did submit that as well. And the last item was just around school safety. I did send out this information to the community. I just wanted to update the committee on this. We have our drill schedule ahead of time like we did last year. I will be sharing out with parents the specifics, but it's going to be on the 24th of January when we will do our scenarios. And so we'll send a very similar message as we did last year so that if anyone has questions about their children, or if they do choose to not have them in school, or during that time, they can work with the principals on that. We are aware of trauma that's associated with going through drills, but we're not doing any kind of live reenactments or anything like that. These are scenario-based, so you would be just stop wherever you are. If the worst was happening right now, how would you react? How would you respond? And being developmentally appropriate at the elementary level. To younger children, it's more if you see a stranger out in the field or in the building, what would you do? As you get older and you get into high school, you're dealing with much more specific scenarios. And unfortunately, there was another incident just this last week that we're responding to. Similarly, I wanted to share, the swatting incidents. There's been a rise in these incidents, which are somewhat they're hoaxes. The idea is to create a disturbance and have a lot of people show they want to see a reaction. So we've done some trainings with our school safety team and the North Reading Police Department. A lot of these calls are coming into the main office. And so we talk through what to do when you have a call, which you are suspecting would be a swatting call, how to respond, and then also some questions to ask. Like sometimes your response might be one way, and then you certainly want to respond a different way. So we don't talk about the details of this too much publicly because we want to be very clear in our approach. But we did have a training for staff on that as well. And then the last part here was about the school safety and the student IDs. I know that there were some questions about the rollout for this. Essentially, just to be clear, what happened was we've been doing this for many years where we've had IDs. Last year it was decided to really enforce it with the staff. And then the idea was for this year to start to roll it out with students. And so the question, we've received a few questions from parents about, are there going to be, is it discipline? Is it a dress code change? It's not a policy change as much as it's a cultural change. We're not enforcing this by suspensions or something if you're not complying, but we're trying to do it through, similar to the way we've dealt with other things similar to this, education and understanding of why. And the most compelling reason that I heard from those that have attended trainings, it is somewhat to be, especially in this building, not all the staff know all the students at both schools, right? So just to be clear who the visitors are, who the students are, who the staff are. But really what we heard that was, I thought, most compelling was in that event where there's a crisis and you've got medical, fire, police personnel coming from all around, knowing really quickly who's here, who belongs here, where you need to go. That's a big reason why the safety team recommended this. So there's been some questions about the rollout, and we would expect that. Obviously, it's not a perfect system, and we expect that it will take time. We started with middle school. One thing we didn't want to do was roll it out at middle school and not at high school, because then it's like, well, we're in the same building, but this is a safety thing that we're doing here, but not here. So we wanted to roll it out everywhere. But we also understand that it's going to get better every year as those middle schoolers come up through the high school and it becomes the norm of the culture, right? And so as I gave in the example I put out there, it's really similar to the kind of a cultural thing. We don't peg our doors, right? That's just something we don't do, even though we understand why someone might do that. It's more convenient than having to walk around or whatnot, but we know it's not safe. And so we're trying to employ that same type of a philosophy with the student ID. So I'm not sure if there are questions about that. I know some of you may have received some individual questions. So.
People seem very popular. Seems to be very popular. I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, it's just more, the only questions I received was there like an event that made this necessary? And
yeah.
So.
Yeah, there was not an event, no. And I think, we communicated that out. I was communicating it out at the school level, and then when I heard that there were some questions, I said, let me put out some kind of cohesive piece, also answer the question. We're not doing this currently at the elementary school for a few different reasons. But there was not a culminating of it. It's all of these events that we've been responding to. Every event that happens in Sandy Hook, Columbine, Iowa, I mean, we learn something from everything. And we've been going to a lot of trainings, and the thinking has changed quite a bit over the last 20 years. And so this is what's being recommended pretty widely now from multiple agencies across the country to have the IDs. So part of that reflection activity on the 24th for the secondary level, I've suggested that they talk about how having an ID might help in that scenario, to help build in that this isn't just sort of an extra hassle to have it, but why it's actually worth having it on your person and not just in your wallet that's out in your car, right?
And are they supposed to stay in the building or leave the building with them? Like the kids stick them like in their backpack, or are they supposed to wear them walking into the building each morning?
IDs are supposed to be visible on your body, and they shouldn't be in a backpack that might be in a locker, because the idea is if we have to pick up and
You don't put it in
go.
your locker and then leave, and then put it on the next morning when you arrive. You walk into school with it on.
It's supposed to be, yeah. And so those are the things we're working with culturally and trying to make sure to answer the why. I think if you have a good, reasonable answer for why, and also, reasonable accommodations and exceptions and understandings. And our assistant principals really spearheaded this, and I want to support them in this, but they did a great job of thinking through a lot of different variables and scenarios, researching other schools where there's different questions. And as Mr. Buckley, I believe, asked earlier about using the idea, one of the suggestions is, making it about this is a multifunctional tool that it can buy your lunch, it can get your library books out. It's, quite honestly, for students that are going to a lot of jobs and colleges, it's a requirement too. So it's just really the norm of those cultures and just trying to build that in here. But it's not a reaction to one particular thing or anything that's happened in our school. It's just a way that we feel we're making our community safer. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say as part of the correspondence, I don't know if you guys received it, but I received an email from the editor. I didn't know we had a student paper in North Reading High School, but apparently we have a student paper, and they wanted to know the school committee reaction to the IDs and whether there was a policy. I explained that I'm not the school committee, but we haven't discussed it, and we don't have an official position. But I kind of supported what Dr. Daly had said about the reason for it, and so. But I didn't know that we had a student paper. How often is that published?
It's, I would defer to Mr. LaPret on that. I think it's online now. And it's done a little bit differently, yeah.
Okay. Any other correspondence you've received?
I just wanted to add that the last part was just this, we did apply for cybersecurity in the new year, and one of the things we've been asking about is to differentiate this and also have a community module, so I'm really excited that we should have access to a community module. I've said for years, this is great, my parents need to do this, and so now we can share this, I believe, with others in North Reading beyond even just our school. I think we can share that out, which I think is great. So to offer some of those workshops as well. And as we move on, no other correspondence at this time.
Yeah, thank you for your cybersecurity. I can't log in. No, I think it's great. I would guess we're probably in the forefront / forerunners of putting a program like an ID program together.
In this state, I think we are sort of taking some lead. You know, I want to, again, I think you see it more in some of your larger districts and urban districts. Our new assistant principal at the high school is from one of those districts and has had some experiences where she fully understands why this is necessary. And so we're, again, supporting those viewpoints that we, take into account.
Bringing it back to the last topic when we were talking about the updates or CIPC updates, would the security systems in any way line up with the IDs in any way, like scanning in or things like that? Or is that not something that's being talked about?
Those are questions we can ask, yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if that's the idea that we're like,
I mean,
if that's something.
I'm not sure. I mean, yes, I've done that in the corporate world for years.
You scan in, or I don't know.
Or fingerprint or all that stuff, but given the time sensitivity.
I'm just wondering.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we're looking at it, but just off the top of my head, I'm not sure practically speaking.
I don't know if it would work,
that could be done.
I don't know if that was something being considered from looking at.
Yeah, I think we want to just have the plan on Wednesday at least is to kind of have an open conversation about what we're trying to accomplish and where we're going, and we can certainly talk about the fact that we're looking at IDs and how can that be incorporated if we can.
I don't know if this was mentioned.
I'm not suggesting it. I'm just wondering if that was part of what it was. So.
I thought that I heard Michael or Mr. Friedman say that maybe the town might seek grants that could help support some of this. Did I hear that? Because some of those grants, there's so many things out there and new emerging techs that, we could maybe tap into. So those are
I would think that's likely.
questions. Yeah. That's great.
Okay, future business. So we have, when is the special town meeting? Is that coming up soon? What day is that one? Do you remember?
That is
31st.
Is that January 31st?
Yeah, January 31st.
So January 22nd, we have a meeting, NRPS 2025 updates. I forgot I put it in my calendar too, just to put it on there, because we're gonna have a meeting that day as well.
Unfortunately.
Is it the 30th or 31st? 30th.
It's our 30th.
So Tuesday, January 30th, we'll have special town meeting, and so we should make sure we post that, Dr. Daly?
Yeah, are we going to have enough people there to post it?
Yeah.
We should post it either way, just in case. If we don't,
In fairness of full disclosure, those 2 weeks, I'm going to be on the road a lot.
Okay.
So.
I don't think it's urgent if you can't attend, but we'll have a spot up there, so I assume we'll be there. If we post it and we don't have a quorum, that's fine.
I'll print a picture of me.
Here we go. I would like that sitting next to me.
I'm sure you would.
With a space in between us.
Okay.
So January 30th, we have special town meeting. February 12th, we have a meeting on goals update. And then February 26th, we have a meeting talking about digital learning update. If there is nothing else, I will entertain my favorite motion of the evening to adjourn.
Second.
No, somebody make it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
I got a little
Simon. Cindy, good seeing you.